So what are microgreens? Microgreens are the edible stems and leaves of vegetable or other types of plants. They are generally grown to the first set of cotyledon leaves developing. So they're going to be very small. They're going to be similar in size to a sprout. However, there are big differences between sprouts and microgreens. Sprouts are very common. They've been around for many years. A lot of people are pretty familiar with them. The big difference between sprouts and microgreens: sprouts are raised in a humid environment without a medium and no ability to either get sunlight or uptake nutrients. Microgreens are going to be a more substantially nutritive product because they do get to uptake nutrients, and they get sunlight, which helps them develop into a more healthy plant for you to consume. Some of the history of microgreens I'd like to speak about next. It's a relatively new product in the food world. They were first started on the West Coast. Most people generally agree that it was in the San Francisco area sometime in the late 80s to the early 90s. From there, they've developed and spread eastward. The number of varieties has vastly expanded. As for the nutritional value of the microgreens, depending on which variety that you're growing, they all offer different benefits. I'm not going to go into too deep of a dive on that today because there's already quite a bit of information on the internet. If you're interested in finding out more, I would recommend you just to get on the internet and kind of do a little bit of research. You can find out which varieties offer which benefits and which you may be most interested in trying yourself, either for a health benefit or for a flavor.
Is there a website that you would recommend, or where should they go to find more information?
To find more information on microgreens on the internet, either YouTube is a great resource. There's a bunch of videos that can show you some different techniques, give you some different reviews of different varieties and what benefits they may offer. So that's probably where I'd start. All right, so when it comes to planting your microgreens, there's many different options available these days that you can use. Personally, I work at an organic farm, and we raise organic microgreens there. We use a compost and peat-based mix. So this already has quite a bit of inherent nutrient value in it, which allows us to not have to feed our microgreens during the growing process. One thing I would recommend is definitely making sure that you do get some nutrients to your plants, because they do have the ability to uptake them, which will create a much more nutritious product for you in the end. Depending on which variety that you would like to grow, it may determine which kind of medium that you would use to grow it. Certain varieties do much better if you cover them for their germination and getting out of the ground. One that I would definitely say that you should cover if you wanted to grow it would be a sunflower. Now, this is also probably our most popular green that we grow at the farm. It's a very nutrient dense one. It's actually highly dense in protein, and it has a great texture, a great flavor. It almost tastes just like a sunflower seed when you eat it. Now, for something like that, I'm going to recommend that you're going to use soil. You're going to fill your container to about ½ an inch from the top of the top. Now, depending on how many you want to grow, you can use different size containers. This is just a very small container. This is something that I would consider would be like a single portion. So what I would do is I would fill my container to within about ½ an inch. I would actually take it and I would wet down my mixture before I planted the seeds on it. I would plant my seeds in it, and then I would overcover with approximately ½ an inch of medium. Then I would mist over the top with a mister. Unfortunately, because most of you at home do not have a high quality hose like we do in the greenhouse where I work, disrupting the soil when you water in underneath a faucet or out of a watering can is going to cause your seeds to become disrupted, and they're going to come out of the medium, and they're not going to have the good soil contact that they need to germinate. So that's something you want to be concerned with when you're doing your planting. Is it a large seed that will come out of the medium? If so, then I want to cover it, and I want to be careful as I'm watering it in. All right, if you're looking to grow some of the easier to grow varieties that do not need to be covered, such as a broccoli or an arugula, you can use a fiber mat. So next, what I'd like to do is give you a demonstration of how I would use this fiber mat to sow seeds and get them started. What I'm going to use today is going to be a broccoli seed. Broccoli, like I stated, was one of the easier ones to grow.
Go ahead.
All right, so this is not a very high-tech technique. What I'm going to recommend is that you physically sprinkle them in straight from the packet. You don't really have to go too fancy. If you're worried about spilling too many, you can portion them into a smaller container and sprinkle from that. However, I have done this a few times, so I'm pretty confident in it. What you're looking for is about maybe half an inch between your seeds. So you're just going to broadcast them over your medium until you've reached the density that is desired for the variety that you're seeding. Now that I've got them on the tray, I'm going to take my mister, I'm going to mist them in, and I'm going to soak down the tray. Now this tray does not have drainage. This is why I'm using a mister. This is going to allow me to control how much water I have in there. You don't want too much water, otherwise you could get a anaerobic environment in there and you could have some lack of success. After I get everything into the tray, I'm actually going to take another tray, I'm going to place it on top, and I want to push down on it so that it makes good contact with that mat below so that we get moisture. It's going to increase the germination, get everything popping at the same time. The tray you want to leave in place for approximately 2 to 3 days in a warm environment. You want to keep it at 70 degrees if you can. That's going to aid the germination. It's going to get everything going at the same time and give you an even germination. And that's it. So once your seeds have germinated, you remove the top tray. You can put a humidity dome on it if you want to. This is, especially with the mat, this is going to reduce the amount of watering and misting that you have to do every day. If you're doing it in a planter, you can take another planter, press that on top to press it down and get your contact. Just take that off when you're done, because you have soil. You'll be able to make it through a full day on a watering, so that will be adequate for that. So the next variety that I'm going to seed out is going to be a daikon radish. And because radishes are a larger seed and they require a little bit more seed contact, I would recommend growing them in soil and over covering them. I'm going to start by just filling my tray to about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch from the top. I'm just going to put some soil in here. I'm going to take and spread the soil out. Get it as flat as you can across the tray. And then we're going to take our seeds, and the same way that we broadcast them the last time by just sprinkling them onto the tray, we're going to do the same thing this time. Now these seeds are a bit larger, the greens are going to be larger, so you can go with a slightly less density on something like this. I'm going to shoot for about 3/4 of an inch between the seeds here. So I'm just making passes back and forth to keep them even in a straight line. And I've got all my seeds on. Now I'm going to take a few handfuls of soil and just gently sprinkle that over the top of the seeds. They don't have to be perfectly covered, but you want to make sure that the vast majority of them are covered. Now after this, you're going to want to mist it in with your mister. One other option that may work for you, I would test this before you try it, but one thing I've heard people having success with is at your, a lot of people at their sinks, they have their little spray nozzle that you can use. That creates a much finer mist, and that should be able to get you to water in a deeper tray like this without disturbing the soil and not having to go outside and use a hose with a fine water or something like that. All right, when it comes to lighting your plants, there's a couple of different options. You could use an indoor lighting system like a T5 fluorescent or a LED light system. Otherwise, I would highly recommend, if you can get them direct sunlight, that would be your best option. Now, when it comes to harvesting your plants, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. Most commercial harvesters use some sort of a automatic machine that makes it very quick because we're harvesting quite a few greens. However, that's not going to probably be an option for a home gardener. In the home gardener's case, I would recommend just using a pair of scissors. You can take and harvest as many as you need at a time by just grabbing them at the top and trimming them off at the soil or medium base. The nice thing about microgreens, once you have them harvested, they have a pretty decent shelf life, anywhere between 7 to 14 days. So you can keep them, once you have them harvested, in a fridge, in a little container or something to keep them moist, and they will be good for at least a week for you.
Here's another question for you.
Yeah.
So if after you harvest,
Yeah.
do they regrow? And if they do, or if they don't, what do you do with them at that point?
Excellent, excellent question. When you are done harvesting your microgreens, there are certain varieties that you can regrow to get a second harvest off of. The main one that we do at the farm that we do reharvest is a red vein sorrel. Now this is a variety that is grown mainly for its looks and its flavor. It's more of a garnish type of one. A lot of the other varieties are a single use though. That's something that you can experiment with though and try harvesting them and see if you can get them to regrow or not. So there's a couple of techniques that you can use in your home to get your own microgreens started for yourself. Like I said before, if you have any thoughts or questions about this stuff, there's a lot of forums on the internet too that you can go on. There's videos on YouTube, and if you're anything like me, a picture is often worth 1,000 words. So watching a video can give you a lot more information than possibly just reading something. Another option would be to stop down at one of our junk stores. We have quite a few knowledgeable people in store that can help you with any questions, help you pick out varieties, help you pick out any of the mediums or other products that you may need to help get yourself started with growing your own microgreens at home. I hope this has been helpful for you today, and have a great day.